All right, Mary, well, here is one of our sunny beds.
So what is considered a sunny exposure?
A place that gets a lot of sun. And it's a much better problem to have a lot of sun. There are so many plants that love to grow in sunny spots. And sometimes you just have to try it to see if there's enough sun. But not all sun is the same. The sunlight from 11 o'clock to 4 p.m., for instance, that's better sunlight than sunlight in the early morning and late evening hours. It's stronger, it does the plants more good, so you can get by with fewer hours of sun if it's in those intense direct sunlight times.
So now I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some of your favorite plants to use for the sun?
And how long do we have to talk? Because again, like I said, there's so many. You get so much more color so much more easily in the sun. And we'll talk about petunias later because those are mostly for containers that we like to use those. But for plants in the ground, some of our favorites include celosia. This is a taller orange celosia called Sunday Series Orange, and it looks like flames. We love celosia. It's rock solid and handles the sunlight just perfectly. A plant that I think people should plant more. I'm surprised at how little we sell of them because they're not blooming in the greenhouse when you see the little 4-packs, but it's annual Rudbeckia. This one is called Sunspot Yellow Bicolor, and I just love the character in the vivid yellow color that Rudbeckia gives.
What is this tall plant here as a background?
That is one of my favorite annuals for height, and it's amazing to think that those huge plants were sold in little 4-packs this spring. And we plant them at least 2 feet apart. It's called Nicotiana only the lonely. It's a form of Nicotiana called woodland tobacco. So yes, it's related to tobacco. But the nice thing about that, besides those beautiful drooping white blossoms, is the fragrance that it releases in the evening.
What is that beautiful brown plant there?
It almost looks like cattails, and that's actually an ornamental millet called Jade Princess Millet. The first ornamental millets that they came up with were the purple-leafed millets. There was one called Purple Majesty, and to tell you the truth, it was ugly. It looked like a single purple cornstalk with purple leaves. But this Jade Princess, they've bred them into dwarf well-branched plants, and I think they're an attractive accent.
Well then, what is the plant that's behind you? Because that's an unusual bloom and color.
That is Cleome. That is another plant that is a great source of height as an annual. So we use it a lot to fill space in the center of flower beds, and it loves the hottest, driest spots. Some people call it spider plant, and some people think it looks like fireworks. And that's another one that for some people it does reseed.
And who is this right here in front of us?
That is an ornamental kale. It will grow best in full sun. However, it does like cool temperatures. As the temperatures cool going into fall now, the center of that plant will develop a rich purple coloration, which is the main feature of that plant.
It reminds me of a cabbage.
It's directly related to cabbage. Yes.
Huh. Well, this bed is just gorgeous. What are your favorite plants to use for sunny hanging baskets?
Sunny hanging baskets. There are a lot of options. The winner for hanging baskets is always petunias. And the #1 petunia is always Vista Bubblegum, the queen of trailing petunias. So it's hard to beat petunias for hanging baskets.
I've heard the term thriller, filler, and spiller. What are some of your favorite plants to use that fit each of those bills in a container?
Oh, good question. So thriller, filler, and spiller. Thriller, we have to say, is probably the height, the thing in the middle that gives you a good accent. If you have a big enough planter, I love using purple fountain grass in the middle because it's just such a nice accent. In terms of filler, I'm not sure whether they're talking about the color filler or just some sort of miscellaneous filler, but again, petunias are great there. There are so many options. And then spillers, again, there are too many options to even talk about. There's trailing verbena. The one plant that's I love using, I guess you would call it a filler, although it's got a lot of color, is lobelia. When I was growing up, lobelia, it's gorgeous, you know, brilliant, almost blue blossoms, but it had a bad reputation because the first time you let it dry out, it would look ratty after that. They are coming up with better varieties of lobelia that are more resistant to summer heat, and they're really nice for adding that blue color that's so hard to get.
Is there something that people can do to keep their baskets and planters looking nice all summer?
That is an entire topic, and the number one secret is never letting them wilt. A planter, especially petunias, calibrachoa, whatever, often they'll look ratty after they are allowed to wilt. To prevent that, you start by using a big enough basket. For our petunias, we use a minimum of 12-inch, and that even is a little too small to stay ahead of the watering on a big trailing petunia. So mostly we use 14-inch baskets. And then you just have to make sure to water them thoroughly and deeply, especially once they grow and get big in the hot days of August. Some baskets might need twice a day because every blossom, every leaf is constantly transpiring water. Now, having said that, the other secret is, especially with trailing petunias, fertilizer. They really do like to be fertilized a lot, maybe once a week with a water-soluble fertilizer such as Miracle-Gro or Jack's. They respond well to that. And I've had petunias that I've almost given up on because they were not looking good. Maybe I had let them dry out. But once I started fertilizing them again, it doesn't take them long and they start growing out and looking good again.
Do you use some granular fertilizer to start also?
Good question. Yes, we use the specific granular fertilizer that is a time-release fertilizer. The major brand name is Osmocote. So in every petunia basket, we start out with maybe a tablespoon or two of Osmocote, but then we also continue to water with the Miracle-Gro or Jack's water-soluble fertilizer throughout the summer. I would say it's important that for certain types of plants like begonias and impatiens, I would skip the Osmocote. They don't need as much fertilizer as a petunia. And I have to talk about my wife's favorite sun-loving annual, which are zinnias. We call that the cartoon flower, just because, I don't know why, they look like a cartoon. They're such a cartoon of a flower, and they're such bright colors and vibrant blossoms that this year we tried starting zinnias from seed that we put right in the ground and let them grow up, and they're doing great.
But they're so beautiful. Do you cut them?
You can absolutely cut them and use them as a cut flower, and they will continue to bloom all summer long.